Hey, bricks and mortar retailers, welcome to this week's training. And the theme is all about cash flow for your bricks and mortar store. And I'm going to be running through with you today 10 essential strategies that you can use within your store to boost your cash flow. So before we launch into it, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. And let's just launch into it. So cash flow is one of the most frustrating challenges that we have as bricks and mortar retailers. I remember when I was running my pharmacies, before I did not understand about this whole thing about cash flow, money was just disappearing from my bank account. And I know I was doing well. The sales were coming in, revenue was up on paper, I was profitable. So my accountants and bookkeepers said, but when I would look into my bank account, all the money would be gone. I wouldn't have any money left over at the end of the month to pay my bills, to pay suppliers, to pay my team, and most of all, I didn't have enough money to pay myself, and was super frustrating to understand, to try to figure out what was going on in my business. It was not until I sought some help, and I sought the help of a business coach, that it was able to rapidly change everything for me. And I've got lots of trainings down below on explaining all about cash flow and explaining why you might get into that situation. I won't run into all of that here. But what I want to run through is take you deep into sharing with you 10 strategies that you can use in your store today or over the next week. So there is a worksheet associated with this. If you want a copy of all these strategies, just pop the word worksheet below and I'll get it out to you. So let's just rock and roll into it and run through these 10 strategies. So the first strategy is assessing our current cash flow situation. I think assessing is one of those techniques that we really aren't good at as bricks and mortar retailers. I mean, nobody's taught us how to do it. So we need to have a look at our financial statements. So hopefully you're getting financial statements from your bookkeeper or your accountant. Hopefully you're looking at them, but I can very much bet you're probably not, because you wouldn't be in a cash flow crunch if you were. And so we need to assess our current cash flow situation. And that is making sure that we get access to all these reports that we might have. If we don't have a bookkeeper or an accountant, making sure we're using our accounting software to get all these statements. So we need financial statements, cash flow statements if we can. We need to start to look at them, identify patterns, strengths, areas for improvements. And this is setting the foundation for effective cash flow management, is this process of assessing where we are at the moment. Now, I can appreciate this might not be a strong suit for a lot of bricks and mortar retail business owners and for a lot of business owners, period. So you want to make sure that if you don't understand them, that you get some help. Check with your bookkeeper, check with your accountant, get somebody that can help you. Or, of course, we're here to help you with that as well as business coaches for bricks and mortar retailers. So step one, a strategy is to assess your current cash flow situation. And you will be surprised, or maybe you won't be, but the moment you start to assess your current cash flow situation, your mind expands, and in fact, changes tend to roll through in your business. So it's that whole thing of what gets measured gets managed. It's just the automatic thing of once you start looking at this stuff, your cash flow starts to improve a little bit. So assess is the first thing I would get you to do. The next thing is we need to identify cash flow bottlenecks in our business. So we need to examine the processes, our business processes. We need to examine our payment cycles, right? How often are we paying these bills? Because, if we are paying them earlier than we need to, then we're going to get into a cash flow crunch. And so we can create more cash by extending the payment cycle, or really understanding at this stage is identifying where the bottlenecks are. So have a look at your payment cycles, have a look at your inventory management, have a look at your customer payment patterns, and then you can start to pinpoint the factors that can hinder your cash flow, right? So we want to basically, as part of the assessment process, want to understand the full picture, the bottlenecks and then we can start to implement targeted solutions so that we can optimize our cash flow. So just this whole process of looking at the bottlenecks will also open up your cash flow situation and increase the flow of cash. The next thing, step 3, the third strategy is to streamline our inventory management. So here it involves using our point of sale system, and please utilize your point of sale system so that we can start to identify slow moving or obsolete inventory. And so why do we need to do that? Well, we can then start to implement strategies that can turn that dead stock, that slow moving stock, that obsolete inventory into cash. Really, really important. So we need to make sure that you set up systems for that. And even if you just start small, just grab the dustiest thing that's sitting in your back storeroom, get it out and come up with a way to turn it into cash. The other thing is to look at your ordering and implementing some sort of just-in-time inventory practicing ordering. And so this is where you utilize your point of sale system and making sure that you've got your ordering down to a fine art and science. Of course, it's never going to be perfect, but you need to make sure that you work within the seasonal variability of your store, making sure that you work with your point of sale system and whoever does the ordering to ensure that you've got proper processes in place. The other thing we can do is we can reduce our carrying costs, we can minimize stock outs and all of these ensure that we've got optimal cash flow for our bricks and mortar store. So that's a really important strategy. The next strategy is accounts receivable. So many of us, well, some of us bricks and mortar stores, we have accounts and we have customers on accounts. So we need to make sure that we establish clear payment terms to our customers. We want to make sure that we start bringing forward our payment dates. So many of us have 30-day terms. We need to change that to 7 days. We need to make sure that people pay us on time. We need to make sure that we promptly send out invoices, and we've got systems in place for overdue payments. And we also need to make sure, if we're not already, is that we're taking online payments, and we want to get our customers' money any way as we can. So the real key here, and I think this is often overlooked, is setting up a direct debit system for accounts. Putting everybody on direct debits is the best way to do it. Sure, there is a cost with that, but let's incorporate that cost into your products and services within your store. But that's going to be a game changer for you in terms of a cash flow perspective. You're going to get money sooner. It's going to be in your bank account, and the whole process is going to be less of a headache. So that's such a big suggestion that I recommend to all my bricks and mortar retailers is, if you have accounts, let's move everybody to direct debit, and manage that process through. The next part, number 5, is to optimize accounts payable. So this means extending payment terms with suppliers. So we all know this as part of, negotiating better terms, or as part of doing good businesses. But over time, I guess if we've had our store, we've kind of relaxed a little bit and haven't really chased up favorable payment terms with suppliers or negotiating discounts for early payments and all these kind of things. So here's the opportunity to go back and start to talk to our suppliers and see if we can explore some of these opportunities for later payment terms, perhaps bulk purchasing within a reasonable discount. You also want to ensure that we're processing invoices efficiently and we're tracking our payments efficiently so that we can optimize our cash flow and we can start to reduce unnecessary expenses, and so that our cash flow ultimately remains stable in our brick and mortar store, and you're going to see increased cash in your bank account. So that's optimizing our accounts payable. The next thing is expense. So we all know we need to monitor and control our expenses. My real number one tip here is to make sure that we have a system in place to do that. Many of us do this ad hoc. We might find, the utilities bill has gone up, and that's the point that we'll jump in and talk to our utility supplier and negotiate better payment terms. But what I'm suggesting here is that you need to make this a part of a regular process. And certainly with our clients, we do that. We get you to set up a system so that you're monitoring and controlling expenses regularly. And this has a dramatic increase on your cash flow. So that's a really often overlooked strategy. It's the most basic strategy. You'd think everybody does it, but nobody does it. The next thing is we get to cash flow forecasting. Really, really important. it's one of those things that many bricks and mortar retailers, we overcomplicate the process, or we rely on somebody else, bookkeeper or accountant. It's really important that we forecast the cash flow ourselves. So that means we have a system in place for doing that, and make sure that your system for cash flow forecasting is really, really simple. So by creating a cash flow forecast, you can anticipate cash flow gaps, surpluses, periods of highs and lows, and then you can start to make informed decisions to optimize the performance of your store. So, it just allows you to make strategic decisions. So, for instance, if you have a capital expenditure, perhaps you're buying a new PC. Well, what happens if I buy that PC now? How does that impact my cash flow later on? What if I took out some financing to purchase that new piece of equipment? How does that impact my cash flow later on? So that you can see the power of cash flow forecasting. So make sure that you set up a system to do that. Of course, it goes without saying for number 8 is to make sure that we have processes in place for improving sales in our store. So it's quite hilarious that as bricks and mortar retailers, we don't actually have a sales process. We know we need to sell, and we perhaps rely on our team or foot traffic, but many of us don't actually have a sales process. Now, what composes a sales process? It's from the instant that a customer comes into contact with your store or a team member, how they're greeted, how the relationship is built, how we go about asking questions, how do we figure out what problems it is that our customers are experiencing, and then what is the system that our team members follow to put together a solution to sell to our customers. So important. And I think it's just complacency, or we just think that whoever works in a retail store knows how to sell. That's such a big mistake. So you need to make sure that you develop a sufficient, effective sales process. Once you do that, once you start to have more sales and have everybody following their sales process, obviously your cash flow is going to go up. The next part is get help. So obviously a little bit of self-promotion here for step number 9. By using a business coach or someone that's a retail business coach like myself, who's got experience in running bricks and mortar stores, who's done it himself, who's been in the cash flow crunches that you've been in, I can help you get out of that hole a lot quicker. If you don't want to work with me, seek help from your bookkeeper, your accountant, somebody who knows how to read your statements, somebody who knows bank statements and financial statements, somebody who knows how to move that stock, somebody who knows how to set up sales processes and really flush your bank account with cash. So that's number 9. And of course, the 10th strategy to boost your store's cash flow is to regularly review and adjust your cash flow strategies. So this is an ongoing process. So it's really important that you monitor the effectiveness of your implemented strategies, whatever you're doing. You need to have a system in place to regularly review your financial statements. You need to track your cash flow weekly, project it accordingly, and you need to make sure that you have a key set of KPIs. You need to have KPIs in place to optimize your cash flow. And the whole process of cash flow, you need to be evaluating, adapting, continually moving through and reviewing to ensure that your bank account is constantly flushed with cash. So there you go. There's the 10 strategies there. Like I said, if you want a copy of that, just pop the word worksheet below and I will get it out to you. So until next time, much love. Catch you later. Bye.